The Seventh Adventist Church, beloved in the Seventh Adventist Church, this is a very urgent message, a very urgent message in relation to the emerging church movement, 2018 within the Seventh Adventist Church. Take it from the book, select the message, book 1, page. Select the messages, book 1. Page 199. Select the message, book 1, page 199, section called Beware. I'm giving a message to bear to you in the test of your rest of your physicians who are connected with the Medical Missionary Association. Separate from the influence exerted in the book Living Temple, for it contains species sentiments. There are in it sentiments that are entirely true, but these are mingled with errors. Scriptures are taken out of their connection and are used to uphold erroneous theories. The thought of the errors contained in this book has given me great distress, and the experience that I have passed through in connection with this matter has nearly cost me my life. It will be said that Living Temple has been revived, but the Lord has shown me that the writer has not changed, and that there can be no unity between him and the ministers of the gospel while he continues to cherish his present sentiments. I am bidden to lift my voice in warning to our people, saying, be not deceived. God is not mocked. Galatians 6:7. You have had access to testimonies for the church, volumes 7 and 8. In these testimonies, a danger signal is raised, but the light, so clear and plain to minds that have not been influenced by deceptive theories, has not been discerned by some. Now, beloved of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, that is what this new book, Invitation to a Journey by Robert J. Mulholland and Celebration Discipline by Richard H. Foster, teaches. It's the newer version of pantheism. It's the Omega apostasy. But you see what it's done? It's attacked the schools of theology within the Adventist Church. The Alpha apostasy for physicians was about Living Temple in the Medical Missionary Association, beloved. But the Omega apostasy is affecting the schools of theology with the book Invitation to a Journey by Robert J. Mulholland and Celebration of Discipline by Richard H. Foster. And the class was formerly called Spiritual Information. Now it's called Foundations of Biblical Spirituality, beloved in the Adventist Church. They use neurolinguistic programming, contemplative prayer, and the emerging church movement within this movement. And they teach pantheism, the same thing, believing that God is an essence that pervades all nature, and that you can get on God's wavelength. Now, look what Sister White says here in this chapter called Steps to Christ, the chapter called The Privilege of Prayer, about prayer. Look what she states right here in her writing. This is in the Spirit of Prophecy. When our prayers seem not to be answered, we are to cling to the promise, for the time of answering will surely come, and we shall receive the blessing we need most. But to claim that prayer will always be answered in the very way and for the particular thing that we desire is presumption. God is too wise to err and too good to withhold any good thing from them that walk uprightly. Then do not fear to trust him, even though you do not receive the immediate answer to your prayers. Rely upon his sure promise. Ask and it shall be given to you. Perseverance in prayer has been made a condition of receiving. We must pray always if we would grow in faith and experience. We are to be instant in prayer. Romans 12:12, to continue in prayer, to watch in prayer with thanksgiving. Peter exhorts believers to be sober and watch in the prayer. 1 Peter 1:7. Paul directs in everything by prayer and supplication. Make your requests known. Make your request known to God. And Ellen White even goes on to say that when it comes to prayer, beloved, we need to talk to God as a friend, open up our hearts unto God. See, in contemplative prayer, spiritual information, what they do is they block their mind out of all thoughts, and they try to get on God's wavelength. And so what they do is they block the mind of all thought and put one picture in their mind and dwell upon picture themes like the Jesuits did in 1611 under Ignatius Loyola. Rather than talking to God as a friend, opening to Him what's on their heart that they need answered, and they do use candles and sounds and wild music and stuff like that in order to get on God's wavelength. That is called spiritual information. That's a false need of prayer. And they try to get on God's wavelength, mean they want to get His personality. They want to see where God's personality is. That's pantheism, beloved. Sister Wire says, do not enter into controversy with anybody over God's personality and where His presence is. So that when they want to get on God's wavelength, they want to get on God's personality and where His presence is, beloved. And our female pastors and our Adventist Church Commission pastor teaching at Oakwood, Dr. Jean Beto and Dr. Ifield Bequasi, both teach foundations of biblical spirituality. They've changed the name to deceive the Adventist people, but they're still teaching the same principles in that class, beloved. And it's an apostasy of latter times. The emergent church movement will take you to hell, beloved. We need to follow God in His last days and not be deceived by Him when it comes to contemplative prayer, beloved. We need to not be deceived by our great adversary, because he's coming down, working miracles in His last days to deceive even the very elect. And contemplative prayer deceives even the very elect, beloved. Neurolinguistic programming. What is neurolinguistic programming? When they take words and they hypnotize people using their words. Like Antoine Mesmer, he tried to hypnotize trees, beloved. There's a wonderful section on SDA.com by Vance Farrell when he talked about hypnotism and how spiritual information hypnotize people in His last days. So stay away from neurolinguistic programming. Stay away from contemplative prayer, beloved. I learned it here at Oakwood University. I passed it with a C under Dr. Jean Beto after flunking it like 4 or 5 times under Dr. Quasi, beloved. Stay faithful to God in His last days. Do not go down for spiritual information, neurolinguistic programming, and contemplative prayer in the emergent church movement, beloved. Stay faithful to God, because Sister Wire says that I will show what would take place. She said in Selected Message Book 1, chapter called Foundation of Faith, page 202 to 204, a system of intellectual philosophy will introduce. Books of a new order will be published. She says, nothing shall be to stand in the way of this new movement. And this new movement is in the church, beloved. Stay faithful to God, Maranatha, and stand against the emerging church movement. God bless you, Maranatha.